prioritize.
So here we go then into Champion Select. What are we going to see from this one? The first ban's coming out. Annie taken away by Roccat with Renekton there. The standard Kassadin red side ban for SK.
I wonder if Roccat are considering a Vayne ban. We've seen CandyPanda running Vayne many times before. If SK leave Caitlyn up, it means Roccat could decide to pick Caitlyn into Vayne. It's a good lane matchup, something that'll work in their favor. But we have been seeing how impactful CandyPanda can be on that champion. I also think that Ziggs is going to be a priority. Interesting seeing SK banning away Kate. This may force Rockat's hand for that Vayne.
And this is also the second time, obviously, that these two teams played. And funnily enough, last time around that they played, it was a Caitlyn ban as well for SK Gaming. They banned out Lucian as well in that game. So we'll see what their third and final ban will be, as we will here for Roccat in the coming seconds.
Kayle is still up, as is Ziggs, so is Trundle. There are a lot of priority picks for both of these teams. The Pantheon's still in there as well. So whatever Roccat does decide to ban away, it's going to give some of the other options to SK being on that red side.
And there is the Vayne ban, as we kind of thought from that one, having Caitlyn out there. Do you really want to first pick Lucian to take that away? They get rid of this Vayne, get that out of the game completely. So that's an interesting thing to look at. What will SK go for? For me, you've got to ban the Kayle in this scenario. Last time around, Roccat were on red side. They had to ban the Kassadin and the Kayle themselves, but it was out of the game. And actually, they've gone here for Trundle. Now, does that leave this Kayle for Overpow?
What's very difficult now is it also means that if Roccat decide to lock in the Kayle now, it's going to allow SK Gaming to grab themselves the likes of that Pantheon, potentially even the Thresh. We've been seeing nRated playing a lot of champions, and I would argue that taking that away from VandeR is a definite possibility.
Well, they go and hover over the Kayle, which is, for me, probably the most realistic first pick from this one, and it will be locked in there. So we're going to be seeing Overpow on Kayle, a scary, scary prospect for a lot of teams here, but that's what they're going to go with. SK leaves them Elise, of course, that snuck through that ban and pick phase, and I'm guessing that they're going to take this in their first round.
Yeah, I do think that this is going to get locked in. What this also allows Roccat to do is decide which jungler they want to go for. Knowing that Pantheon is up, Elise is up, as is Wukong, so is Vi. There's a lot of champions up and available for Roccat to decide what they want to run with. And we've seen Jankos playing all four of them at different stages during the splits.
And just to touch back on that Kayle point there, a couple of statistics for you. 2 games played so far for Overpow, and it would have been more, but it's been pretty much banned against him this entire time. And that included the win over Gambit, where he went 8-1-7 with that Kayle. So SK Gaming here, Pantheon with the Elise open as well, which we can only assume if Pantheon is picked up by Svenskeren, that Roccat will end up with Elise as well. Either way, Lucian will be the first choice here for SK Gaming, for CandyPanda with that Caitlyn and with the Vayne both banned out, and there is the Pantheon locked in.
I'm very excited to see Svenskeren back on Pantheon. In my opinion, it is his strongest jungler, and we've been discussing the options for this game. We discussed some of the picks and bans theory coming into it, and I think that Svenskeren getting that semi-global from the Grand Skyfall is going to allow him to impact the lanes quite heavily. If we see SK going for a Ziggs once again, you're going to have a lot of that sort of half-map range ultimates that can assist SK Gaming get their mid-game team fights going.
So what are Roccat going to go for here? For me, I mean, look at those 3 picks there. You've got 3 champions, or more importantly, 3 players that are going to have their ultra #1 signature champions. Thresh for VandeR, Elise for Jankos, Overpow taking the Kayle in there. That's already such a scary lineup for Roccat.
So I'm going to theorize that after SK lost the game yesterday, they decided they want to play League of Legends on hard mode, and they've allowed Roccat to get some of these incredible champions. Every single one of the Roccat lineup is going to do phenomenal at every stage of the game. Kayle's going to eventually scale and become that late game destructive force. Remember, we are on 4.1, so her Q is still that 1-to-1 ratio. The one thing that I want to know from Roccat is, who do they run as an AD carry?
Yes.
Sivir is still available, Ezreal is still up. With the champions they've got, depending on the top laner Roccat wants to run, will determine whether they're going to run that Sivir or not.
Well, on there for SK, we do see the Ziggs locked in there for Jesiz. It's not really a surprise. We expected that to come through. We'll see nRated running his Leona as well. Very, very strong pickup for him. But you mentioned right there about the AD carry. If you look at the games that Celaver's played, it's pretty much Lucian, Caitlyn, over and over. with the exception of 2 games where he played a Jinx and an Ezreal. So that Ezreal, or the Jinx, I think more likely it will be an Ezreal for this one, a little bit safer, especially when those global ultimates, or semi-global ultimates we should really call them, come into play.
Yeah, and especially against the Leona as well, allowing you to use that arcane shift. With Jax being locked in, it makes Freddy's life very difficult. If Freddy goes for Dr. Mundo, he's going to have an incredibly tough time up in that top lane. He's going to struggle to go even with Jax. Jax is going to be able to bully him and really put some smack down. I like the composition that Roccat has. They are going to scale incredibly well. Elise's early game ganking power is going to supplement the slightly slower laning phase of that Kayle and the Jax. And the longer this game goes, the scarier those 2 champions are going to become. You put that intervention on Jax, that's basically a pentakill waiting to happen.
Certainly is, and we've not seen any Jax up until now here in Europe, obviously. Did see him over in North America. Zion Spartan running that one to great effect, actually, as well. A little bit scary, that one certainly was. What are they going to match up with it here, though? Aatrox for Freddy, and actually I looked through Freddy's games played this week, and Aatrox did sneak in there a couple of times, and it will be locked in for him. So very, very interesting top lane. It's going to be the first time that we in fact see both of these champions here this season.
Yeah, it is going to be the first time. I'm trying to remember which Korean event ran Aatrox top lane. It might have been Masters, or it was the play-ins for the next OGN split. And there was an Aatrox that went top lane. He did phenomenal. The amount of lifesteal and attack speed that you gain really works well. I'm nervous about the matchup though, because Aatrox is so auto-attack based and reliant on spamming those right clicks. Jax's Counter-Strike, if used effectively, could mitigate a lot of Aatrox's damage, but Aatrox has got a knock-up, he's got the ability to slow down anybody that comes in to gank him, and he's got that built-in GA, so there's a lot of tools for each of these players to work with in that top lane.
Yeah, his passive allows, he's a little bit more forgiving, I think, is what we can say in there. The fact that it is basically a Guardian Angel built in for free. Very interested to see how that one goes. But first of all, before we get to the game, we're going to check the numbers and see who you guys have been voting for on this one. And for me, it's not really a surprise to say that Roccat leads the vote with 84%.
I think that is a very indicative vote of how Rockat's been performing in the league. You know, they are at the top of the table. They're at 10-3. This is to push them to 11-3 if they win this game. Panic for a second.
Add one to the wins column.
But I think SK Gaming have got a strong composition in dealing with the map. When you consider the global of Pantheon and Ziggs and the power, the split push power that Aatrox is going to offer, SK can play the map very effectively. I do feel that Roccat are going to be a little more reliant on team fights with their compositions, but we will have to see how this plays out because both teams have got decent wave clear, they've got good team fight power, and it's going to be an exciting one.
Well, we heard from nRated in our video just before the game that if you let them play their way, they'll slowly but surely get one over on you. And the thing that scares me here is that if SK don't do the business early enough against the likes of a Jax and a Kayle, late game is going to be so painful.
I think that is the best description. Once Kayle and Jax get a couple of items secured for themselves, there's not a whole lot of tools on the side of SK to deal with him in a straight-up fight, all right? I think that once Jax gets a whole bunch of items, he should be able to bully around and deal with that Aatrox. However, SK have got significantly better poke with the fact that Ziggs is on their side. So as long as Jesiz is landing those bouncing bombs, this is the 5th time he's played this champion out of 14 games, the Roccat are going to have a difficult time engaging.
Certainly an interesting one. The fact that SK are the team that really have spoiled the run almost of Roccat the last time that these two met. It'd actually be 6 wins in a row now if Roccat had have won that game against SK Gaming. So certainly a little bit of a grudge match, I think we can call it, for Roccat in particular on this one. But as I said, SK not doing bad whatsoever in these last couple of weeks.
Ironically, this game, if they win, will be their 6th game in a row as well, if memory serves. So the SK Gaming, the keepers of the 6-game winning streak. We'll see if SK can interrupt it. Svenskeren, I think, is going to want to gank this top lane. Or potentially help out CandyPanda and nRated. We've seen this Thresh versus Leona lane happening all the time. Thresh bullies Leona until level 6, at which point the tables get turned. But I think if Svenskeren gives some love to Freddy and helps Aatrox get a little bit ahead of Jax, that could be a very good way in pulling Rockat's attention to that top lane, pulling Roccat towards the Aatrox and forcing them to deal with him.
So he's going to be spawning in. We can see that Roccat doing their red buff, exactly the same happening over the other side for SK Gaming. Freddy just helping out Svenskeren to get things started there. So we already touched on that top lane matchup here, but the mid lane, Ziggs, we know how strong Jesiz has been with that, very good at farming. His kind of style, I think we can safely say, is that Ziggs. For Overpow, a lot of experience, pretty much was the Kayle that got LCS in the first place. What do we think to this matchup, though?
So Overpow is going to be very fluent with the strengths and weaknesses of Ziggs, and we'll see how he decides to control the lane. Overpow's played Ziggs twice this split already, only given up one death. I feel like the very early levels, 1 through 4, is going to be in favor of Jesiz if he can get harassed down. His auto attacks are ranged, it doesn't cost him mana to spam those out. But once Overpow gets some levels and gets those swings up on his Righteous Fury, he should be able to counter-push the lane from Ziggs as well.
Both junglers having a very standard start here, starting off with the red buff, going straight over onto their blue buffs. And that leaves Pantheon on the bottom side of the map and Elise on the top side. Now wondering here if Jankos is going to go up there. There's actually a ward in the river already put down by Freddy, so he'll spot Jankos earlier enough. And if he's got his Dark Flight by then, which he actually doesn't at this point, then he can get away from it. But he's seen him early enough there. As soon as he stepped back, Jankos realized that he wasn't going to get it.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to actually gank an Aatrox. He's got the slow from his E, the Blades of Torment. He's got the knock-up from his Q, at which he can use to either slow somebody down or use it to escape. And as we talked about, he's got that revive passive. As long as the resource bar under Freddy's HP is red, he will be able to revive in a team fight. So if you guys don't remember seeing Aatrox, that's the way it works from the Bloodwell.
Yeah, funnily enough, we saw a lot of him both in the jungle, a couple of times in the top lane as well. Since then, obviously fell out of favor completely, but interesting to see him back into this one, along with Jax for Xaxus there in that top side. As predicted down in the bottom lane, SK Gaming have to be a little bit careful in these earlier levels due to the fact that Thresh can really bully that Leona around. That's going to allow a small CS lead to start building up for Roccat in that lane.
It's going to be very difficult for nRated to catch Celaver. He's gone on VandeR. That's a lot of early damage.
Yeah, that is some good damage actually coming in. Of course, it won't be really turned into a kill at this point. Just not enough damage from either of the AD carries. CandyPanda just trying to put a bit more down on towards VandeR as well, but for now, they'll go back to farming.
That was actually an incredibly good play from nRated. The moment he hit level 3, he immediately went on VandeR. They forced VandeR to lose about half of his hit points and drink that potion. What that means is VandeR has to play a little bit more reserved in lane. He can't afford to get caught out and take all that damage. Take a look at these junglers. We highlighted them as our featured matchup. There is a counter gank available.
Overpow getting knocked away from this one with the turnaround actually on towards Svenskeren. He's going to lose half of his HP, but Overpow just walking off straight through the mines. Didn't bother with the flash, didn't need to use it there, but he still has to be careful at half HP in that mid lane. If Jesiz manages to knock him up with a satchel charge and then throw a combo at him, he could be in a bit of danger.
Yeah, it is the case. Overpow can obviously heal himself as well, so he'll regen some of that HP, but I thought it was quite humorous. Svenskeren getting a tiny bit of distance, stunning a little minion just to try get out of range of Jankos. What I liked about that is that both junglers were in the lane at about the same time. They sort of understood that there was a gank possibility and a counter gank was available. So both teams already showing an understanding of their opponent's playstyle.
Well, that's certainly the time you want to get to this middle lane, especially from SK's side of things. I think before that intervention comes in, it makes it so much harder to actually kill off the opposition. Xaxus and Freddy exchanging here once again. Freddy having the better of this one though. Those Blades of Torment hitting already pretty hard.
Yeah, so taking a look at this lane matchup and thinking a little bit more about the tools that Aatrox has available. His abilities cost life, and he has the ability to lifesteal thanks to his W's, the first blood price. So Xaxus is going to have a difficult time until he gets some items built up, until he's got something that he can trade and get some of his own lifesteal back with. You see Freddy just continually throwing out those over and over and over, and I think Xaxus is just going to have to wait until he gets some jungler intervention or gets himself some items before he can pick some more fights with Freddy.
Or some Kayle intervention. That'll work out for them as well if he heads up onto that top side. Terrible joke, I know. Meanwhile, down in the bottom lane, we have seen that the CS has evened itself out there. Celaver and VandeR still pushing up quite aggressively, though, on that bottom lane.
Now, VandeR has also grabbed himself a Relic Shield as his first GP10 item. It's something he does against these Leona non-poke lanes often. We'll see how much gold he stacks up. They've jumped on Freddy, and we'll see if they can catch him.
And we see there Aatrox just jumps away straight off from it. The cocoon will miss. That means that they can't get in. Just throw out the Blades of Torment for the slow as well. Freddy just walks straight back off. Of course, he does have his blood well if things really go pear-shaped for him. And then by the time that's up, he can jump away again.
What I like about the blood well is the time it'll take Freddy to actually sort of come back to life is going to allow Svenskeren time to channel his Grand Skyfall, and it's going to allow Jesiz time to throw that Mega Inferno Bomb. So there's going to be a lot of tools that they can use to try to capture out members of Roccat. We do see Svenskeren coming in on Overpow. He's got his ultimate available.
Oh, this is going to be a good amount of damage. Intervention used there by Overpow. The jump in from Jesiz using the satchel charge won't allow him to get any more damage down onto Overpow. He actually saved his flash once again here, so being very, very tight, I think is a very English way to put it, in terms of those summoner spells at the moment. But we see there Svenskeren actually picking himself up the red buff. Nicely invaded from that one. Where's he going to go now? He's actually channeling his ultimate down towards the bottom. There is a Zenith Blade landing. He's going to push nRated underneath the tower. The hook lands as well. The turret's still hitting him. First blood comes in. They do manage to take down VandeR as well. But that was great reactions, a great hook again from VandeR.
And once again, we see how strong VandeR is on that champion. It's not over yet as they do. Oh, Jesiz gets away. Good rubber ducky. I think VandeR on the retreat, landing the death sentence, was very, very calculated. It allowed the kill to be secured by the AD carry of Roccat, whereas on the side of SK Gaming, it was Svenskeren that picked up that kill. You ideally want the gold on your carries, and I think that is definitely going to help out Celaver and VandeR in terms of getting some more control on this lane.
Now we did see before that Grand Skyfall down bottom, Svenskeren picked up the red buff of Roccat, and Jankos replying to that one nicely by heading over into the SK jungle and doing exactly the same. Now, this top lane, just to revisit it once again, 55 to 68 CS. No surprise there, Freddy's been having a much better time of that lane so far. Both of them actually got the Cutlass in there. We see Crystalline Flask actually falls Xaxus from earlier on, and that's giving him a bit more sustain in that lane that Freddy, quite frankly, has naturally built into his kit with his W.
Yeah, he's going to be able to get a lot of lifesteal back. We do see that the Blade of the Ruined King tends to be one of the only offensive items on Aatrox's. Because of the fact that his ultimate, in conjunction with his Bloodwell, gives him so much attack speed, you can actually afford to go for tankier items earlier. I still want to see how this lane plays out, because a Jax versus Aatrox top lane is not something that we've seen on the 2014 season patch. And it's very interesting that they've been left alone on this little island. Freddy is using all of the tools of his kit available to get a CS lead. And we'll see how it plays out. They've caught Celaver again.
Zenith Blade going down. Here comes the Solar Flare. They're going in on towards VandeR. He's at less than half HP. Double auto attacks coming in. The culling blocked out by Celaver. That was amazing block work, but it might cost him his life or not. He throws down the ulti. CandyPanda flashes away. nRated's gone so deep in there. Jankos comes around. They've killed him off and survived it. Crazy stuff in the bottom lane.
Once again, Celaver and VandeR, their synergy just works so well. Celaver ate every single shot of the culling, was able to keep SK Gaming in place long enough that Celaver's True Shot Barrage did not actually get barriered by CandyPanda. He was a little bit late to use that summoner spell, maybe thinking he could burn through Celaver's HP. Fortunately, it wasn't the case, and that's going to give Roccat another kill on their side.
Another kill, 2-1 up now. Only 200 gold separating these two teams, though. We've not seen any turrets going down just yet, although Jax is leaving that top lane, which is going to give Freddy a free bit of time to actually push things out on that side of things. CandyPanda down to half HP from that one. We did see, as you said, the culling came out, blocked brilliantly by Celaver throughout, and Celaver actually is coming back into the lane there with that BF sword, Vamp Scepter, as well as boots and that Doran's Blade. And actually Roccat here going in towards the Dragon, but here comes the ulti combos. Svenskeren going to stun Jankos down. There is the repel up, but he can't really go anywhere. The Dragon is going to be picked up here by SK. Overpow used his ultimate on Jankos to help him get out, but then ended up dying himself.
And that is the power of those ultimate, map-wide ultimates. The Mega Inferno Bomb dealt so much damage to Roccat that when Svenskeren came in with the Grand Skyfall, it was already a one fight. The Smite War was also won by Svenskeren, so they grab themselves that global gold. They also give themselves yet another kill, this time on the AD carry. And it seems like every time one team makes a move, their opponents are able to counter. Very importantly, CandyPanda's got the blue buff. This is going to allow him to spam out those piercing lights and just get control of this lane.
Spam out everything. We saw the culling coming down there. Once again, Celaver not going to be too worried about now that he's got that Vamp Scepter in there, so he can lifesteal everything back up. CandyPanda does in fact throw at him. Top lane, we did see Chain Vest was the second item picked up for Xaxus, and a Giant's Belt actually for Freddy.
Notice the difference in the lane now, how Xaxus is more aggressive on Freddy. He's got himself up to level 9, so he's got a lot of points into that Empowered Strike. With the lifesteal from the Cutlass and the damage reduction from his armor, it's now going to allow Xaxus to bully Freddy around. Interestingly, because Freddy's got more HP from that Giant's Belt, his spells and abilities now actually hurt him more because it's 5% of his health, so it ends up dropping him a little lower. We'll see how Freddy continues to control this lane, because look at this, Xaxus now, he's not afraid to go aggressive.
Oh, but actually Freddy going pretty aggressive there. In fact, popping his ultimate. Are they going to go any further from this one? I think Freddy was just happy to get away while keeping that blood well intact. Xaxus did go back, and that's the thing with the Jax, you know. Get your ultimate passive stacked up there. Just jump in onto him with a leap strike, hit the Empower as well, and do a lot of damage in one go. But there is Freddy once again coming out. Again, he gets stunned up. This time the Ignite goes down. Freddy, though, just jumps away.
Yeah, so Freddy's going to be able to lifesteal under the turret. With his Blood Wall, it makes it even more difficult to tower dive. Grand Skyfall is not available here for Svenskeren, so we'll see how Xaxus plays this one out. Sven, immediately realizing there was the threat of the dive, moves up, farms these double golems, and is close enough in range to respond if any aggression happens.
And back to the bottom lane where we've seen a fair share of action so far. We can see that the Bloodthirster is now done for CandyPanda, so he's going to have the small advantage in that bottom lane. That blue buff is still on him there as well, so as you mentioned before, we'll be able to spam a little bit more, put down more damage over onto the Roccat bottom lane, but I think that one might get a little bit quieter now, with both teams realizing that the kill potential is obviously a lot higher than it was just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, the one thing that Roccat have done very well is that every time the fights have happened on the bottom lane, Roccat have had members of their team there to respond. Overpow was there for the second fight, we've seen Jankos was there for the first fight, and it just seems like Roccat are moving around the map a little bit more cohesively than SK is. It is also showing in the CS. You can see Overpow right now is 30 CS down on Jesiz, but it is something you expect. Because of the early strength of Ziggs and the lane pushing power that he offers, you see how quickly he wipes these waves out. It's always going to be difficult for Kayle in the early levels.
But we talked about it earlier, as things go on, Jax and Kayle are going to be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. We already see that Stinger in there started off for Overpow, but SK right now are actually on the invade, trying to get that blue buff away from Overpow, and they're going to take it.
That's 2 buffs in a row that Svenskeren's been able to steal. He got the red buff earlier, then now he's just stolen this blue buff away. What it actually signals is that SK are not afraid of Roccat at all. They're able to go in, they've got good enough vision, and their members are responding quickly enough. You've seen how close Jesiz was for that invade. Not only did they steal it, they've now caught Jankos out. And
he repels straight away, but the ultimate will be here from nRated. In fact, the intervention was used very early on, and that forced SK to just say, you know what, we can't really challenge for that. Luckily for them, that intervention, not on the longest of cooldowns anyway, but SK might be able to secure not only the enemy blue, but their own. They will take that.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason SK didn't use any other abilities for that kill on Jankos is that it's 2 minutes away from Dragon. They didn't want to use their ultimates for a kill that would then have forced their ultimates to maybe still be on cooldown by the time the Dragon fight were to happen. So controlling patient play here from SK, not throwing all in for something that could eventually hurt them a little later down the line.
Well, we'll see about that one in 1.5 minutes time and see what happens around this bottom side of the map. So far it's been Roccat having that advantage in the earlier stages of the game, but of course now pushed back by SK. This mid lane, they're having a few problems with Jesiz, who with that blue buff on now is just even more of an annoyance, throwing out those bombs. Got Jankos down to half HP straight away underneath the turret.
Yeah, we'll see how he continues to work it out. And, you know, at this point in time, oh, there's a Grand Skyfall on bottom.
Who are they going to go for with this one though? Celaver just jumping out of range. He's going to throw his ultimate on towards CandyPanda, who's actually tanking up the turret. He throws down the culling while walking back, uses barrier. Picked up in style there by SK Gaming. They might have this turret away. Actually, Jankos is coming to try and cover that one, but there's going to be a lot of damage here from SK.
Very good coordination from SK Gaming. I think in a perfect world, CandyPanda would not have been the one tanking the tower, but because of all the CC from that Pantheon and Leona, they picked themselves up what was actually quite an easy kill. They also get the barrier out of Celaver, and now I want to see how they respond to Dragon. If you remember in the pregame, we talked about how SK in their wins average 4 dragons per game, and in their losses average 1 dragon per game. They stole the first dragon, so we need to see how much emphasis SK put on this dragon when you consider Roccat love to fight around that objective as well.
Well, if you take this one, they'll already be beating out their average, which is a good sign for them. Overall, that turret there is super low right now, but it looks like Freddy actually just going to leave it be, and the turret, the minions might actually do the business here. Xaxus trying to last hit under there, and it might actually cost him the turret in the end of it. Just a couple more hits really needed, and, well, 20 HP. Survives
a light breath would kill it. Now, Jez is in a little bit of trouble. Forced to use his satchel charge and his flash, but he gets away. Now Jankos caught.
This is where things gets interesting now. Svenskeren actually going to take a lot of damage, but there comes the ulti out of Jesiz. It helps Svenskeren get that kill. VandeR's put his box down. Intervention comes in. That won't stop the solar flare though, and they're going to chase down VandeR. Can he escape from this one? There's a slow from Aatrox, and there is a Zenith Blade. This is a kill for SK. They want to give it over to CandyPanda, get the Lucian fed. They get the kill, making it 2, and the Dragon straight away afterwards.
And notice, the moment Dragon is up and available, SK Gaming are not afraid to throw everything they have at Roccat. They land all of the damage that they need to, all of the crowd control that they need to, grab themselves a couple of kills, the Dragon and this middle turret. It may cost them the top turret though, as Xaxus is going to be able to just shred the HP down. But Freddy, it was a great roam. For all of the global gold and the objectives that he was able to secure, that was a very good play from SK Gaming.
CandyPanda actually going aggressive there on towards Celaver. That leaves CandyPanda after that fight. We saw them leaving that kill for him, trying to get all that gold stacked up on him. 3-0-1 he currently is. Got the Phage now added in, and the workings of the Sheen obviously going up towards Trinity Force here next to add into his Bloodthirster.
Take a look at all of the vision that SK have put down. If you look at the inventory, they don't have too many wards right now, but we may see them picking up more. You can see pink wards, a couple more greens. But all of that vision down the sort of entrances to the river on Rockat's side of the jungle, especially around the red buff area, that's actually what allowed SK to get all those kills. They had so much information to work with. They were able to chase Roccat down, continually landing all the kills, and CandyPanda even flashed for that last hit. Jankos is going to jump on Freddy, but I don't know if he wants this fight 1v1.
Bit of a face check there, and Freddy's like, can I kill him? I'm not sure about that one. He got the slow, not now, because Overpow's coming in. There's no turret. He actually dives towards Overpow. Here comes Pantheon, though. They're going to throw the Ziggs bomb in there as well. That'll do some decent damage. Freddy going to come back up, but Xaxus will be able to finally find the blow. We can see the rest of SK are actually closing in on this one. nRated, he does have the solar flare. Here comes the Pantheon drop straight in. Who are they going to go for? Jankos just repelling. They decide, you know what, Xaxus is still at the back. Solar flare does go down. Can they finish him off? Leap strike, and he's finished by Jesiz. And the ignite there. Great move around from SK.
So they traded top laner for top laner, but SK Gaming had to expand way more to make that happen. While all of that was going on, Roccat are able to grab themselves another outer turret in that bottom lane. Now Jankos is in trouble.
That is a great knockback there. Can Svenskeren get in? Flash, and a flashback from Svenskeren. The repel goes in, but that won't save him. Jesiz picks up another kill.
Now I think if SK Gaming can put some damage on this inner turret, they stole away the blue, they've got themselves an additional kill, and I want to see how they play this up. Because of the fact that CandyPanda and nRated have backed away, we do see both Jesiz and Svenskeren also backing away from it. But SK Gaming have got themselves a 6,000 gold lead at this point. They've stolen multiple buffs from Roccat, and because of the vision control that they've got and the power of those ultimates, SK are just responding to every move that Roccat has made.
Talking earlier on actually to nRated about their loss yesterday, and he said that was really a game that we just let slip from us, a game that we had control of and then made a couple of mistakes here and there and just let it go far too easily. They're in a similar scenario here right now. The fact is that Roccat still, even though being behind, are going to be getting stronger and stronger as things go on. We'll see how SK can close this one out.
Yeah, I'm very happy you mentioned that because of the fact that we know how strong Jax and Kayle are in the late game team fights and how effective they can be. SK Gaming do have somewhat of a time limit. They cannot rest on their laurels. They cannot sit back and let this game go to 50 minutes because there is that risk that Jax and Kayle will just become unstoppable. What SK does have in their favor, though, is very good tools to make fights happen. You can tower dive with Aatrox, tank up the turret till the point your passive pops, and then just come back to life. Very few champions have that built in, and we have seen Aatrox get a Guardian Angel as well, so you can have 2 revives in one fight.
Basically a 7-man team when it comes down to it. SK here just getting their vision in once again on the bottom side of the Roccat jungle, something that they've tried to do and done successfully over the last few minutes. We're going to have Dragon not too far away from it as well here. And SK, you can see them moving from north to south, going through the jungle, getting that vision in. There's the timer for Dragon, 2 minutes till that comes up.
And notice that SK are using a 4-1 split. They've left Aatrox to do the split pushing. He's got a lot of damage, he's got lifesteal, and he's got the tools to escape ganks. The rest of SK have got so much zone control thanks to Ziggs, and CC thanks to Leona and Pantheon. They just force Roccat away. Roccat need to hard engage, or they lose too much HP.
Yeah, they just lose towers. They have to fight under a tower, otherwise they're actually going to just lose it by way of composition here of the teams. We can see the SK just rotating straight down on towards that bottom lane. They've got minions pushing up with that one, and that's going to allow them to tank up this turret and maybe finish that one off as well. We see there, Celaver takes one bomb, the mines go down to exert some zoning control on that side. They throw everything that they can at them, but SK's still pretty healthy from that.
Now this is where we see some of the weaknesses in the Roccat composition. They don't have the strongest wave clear, nor do they have the most powerful hard engage. They need a Xaxus to jump in and get a good counter-strike. They need a hook to land or similar. And because Roccat don't have a Leona or a Pantheon to jump in and disrupt everybody, Roccat simply are forced away. The power of Ziggs in those sieges is absolutely insurmountable right now.
Yeah, that's the catch-22 that Roccat have. They're behind by 8,000 gold at this point of the game, so they know they're not going to be as strong in team fights. But they also can't just allow those turrets to go down, because before they know it, they're not going to have any base left, and then you're not going to come back from that kind of scenario. So they've really got to find an opening in this one, whether that is by a sneaky Baron, possibly.
I don't know how sneaky this is. There are red pings on Baron, so SK are aware of it. Mega Inferno Bomb is available as well. This Baron is not going down low enough. There comes the Grand Skyfall from Svenskeren.
Here comes the boom in there. There's a culling as well. VandeR going very, very low. Svenskeren is going to pick up the kill there on towards Xaxus. A nice, easy Baron to finish off here by SK, being served up by Roccat as CandyPanda goes hammering into the 2 on the top. Baron goes down, picked up by SK Gaming. What a play out of them.
Delivered on a platter. SK managed to come in at the right time, grab themselves a kill thanks to the great initiation that is offered to them to the Grand Skyfall and the Solar Flare. Now with Baron and the regen and knowing Xaxus isn't there, SK should be able to brute force their way onto this inhibitor and take any other objective they want. Look at that damage in Celaver.
And there is a hook onto nRated, but what you're going to do, you've got nothing to follow up with. They can go down onto this bottom side, and nRated will probably just tank this turret up here on the inhibitor. In fact, they've got minions coming through, so they don't even need to do that for too long. They should be able to take down the second inhibitor. They will do that with that Baron on. I said it before, they need some kind of desperation move. Baron was that, and actually, they're going to surrender. SK Gaming forced Roccat into the surrender and beat them for a second time in the season. SK really are Rockat's kryptonite.